Hey everyone, I'm pharmacist Benjamin Knight Fuchs, registered pharmacist, cosmetic chemist, and nutritionist, and this is our inaugural program, our inaugural podcast of Skin Matters, the podcast where we talk about the skin, how it works, and how you can maximize your skincare products and skincare processes and procedures for beautiful, healthy skin, the beautiful, healthy skin that you deserve, and the beautiful, healthy skin that nature has bequeathed us with when it comes to when it comes to our body's largest organ. You see, the skin is designed to be healthy. And we know this because every time we cut ourselves, our body heals, our skin heals itself. We don't have to think about it. We don't really have to do anything. It's kind of an automatic process. And this healing process is what assures us not only of healing, not only of skin health, but also, as it turns out, of skin beauty. Because at the end of the day, healthy skin is beautiful skin, and beautiful skin is healthy skin. What we think of as beautiful skin, that is skin that glows, skin that's soft and hydrated, skin that is tight, skin that is wrinkle-free, is really a function of the health of the skin. The health of the skin is what makes it beautiful. Now, I'm a healthcare professional who formulates skincare products, and that gives me a unique perspective on how to take care of the skin. So on this program, we're going to talk about how you can take care of the skin, and what exactly the skin is, because at the end of the day, you got to know what the skin is if you're going to be able to treat it effectively in order to maximize its health and its beauty. So first things first, let's talk about the structure of the skin. In biochemistry, we have a concept we call structure function. Structure function refers to the fact that the function of an organ, the function of a system in the body is dependent on its structure. And when we talk about beautiful skin, we're really talking about functional skin. We're talking about skin that heals itself. We're talking about skin that moisturizes itself. We're talking about skin that is naturally protective against the sun and other environmental factors. And all of these functional aspects require a healthy structure. So if we're going to maximize the functional aspects of the skin, we got to understand how to take advantage of the structure. We got to understand how to optimize the structure of the skin. But in order to optimize the structure of the skin, we got to first understand what the structure of the skin is. And this is not so simple, because when we look at the skin, its structure is somewhat hidden. In fact, if you look at the skin, you don't even see that it has a structure, but indeed it does. And the skincare professionals are all aware of, the skin is layered. And again, this is not such a simple concept, because when you look at the skin, it certainly doesn't look like it's layered, but it is. So you've got to make that intuitive leap away from our observational experience into this understanding that the skin has a stratified nature, that is, a layered nature. I think of the skin as being built like baklava or like lasagna, where you have a top layer, and then you have middle layers, and then you have a bottom layer, and then you have a sub-bottom layer. Technically speaking, the surface of the skin is called the stratum corneum. Stratum corneum means the hard layer. Then underneath that, at the bottom of the surface of the skin, you have a bottom layer called the basal layer. And between the basal layer, the bottom layer, where skin cells reside, living skin cells reside, and this hard layer on the top, there's multiple layers. And here's where it becomes really interesting. The basal layers, where all the skin cells, they're technically called the keratinocytes. In biology, cyte means cell. Keratin is a hard protein that's made by the cell. Hence, biologists call these cells keratinocytes, cells that make keratin. Keratin's a hard protein like your fingernails, or like rhinoceros horns, or like antlers. Wherever you have a hard tissue in nature, oftentimes that hard tissue is made up of this protein called keratin. So these keratinocytes are sites that make keratin. And as these keratinocytes are dividing and making their way up to the top of the skin, to the stratum corneum, they're undergoing shape-shifting. And as they're shape-shifting, they're dumping their contents overboard, and the contents inside the keratinocytes is also changing, and this is a very, very important process. So to review real quickly, you've got a bottom layer, that's called the basal layer. Skin cells live in this basal layer. Skin cells are called keratinocytes. cells that make keratin. The keratinocytes are migrating upwards constantly. This is a very important process for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's important because the shape shifting that these cells are undergoing and the changes in the inner workings of the cells, as well as the contents that are being dumped overboard, are going to play a role in the health of the skin barrier. This journey upwards is referred to by skincare professionals as transit time. And this transit time, this movement upwards from the bottom to the top, gets slower and slower as we age. When we're young, it's around 4 weeks to 6 weeks. As we age, it's more like 8 weeks. In other words, it takes 4 weeks when we're young, 4 to 6 weeks or so when we're young for a cell to journey from the bottom to the top. And then as we age, as we can all relate to, if we're aging, things slow down. So instead of 4 to 6 weeks, you're more like an 8-week process. There's a couple of reasons why this is important. The first reason is because the contents that are being dumped overboard as the cells are rising from the bottom to the top, those are going to play a role in the health of the stratum corneum. The second reason why this is important, this movement upwards is important, this transit time is important, is because it assures a healthy skin barrier when there's cuts or when there's disturbances in the surface. This is part of the healing process. So if you cut yourself on the top, on the stratum corneum, the fact that cells are always coming from the bottom to the top to create new surface cells assures the healing process will take place. This is how the skin self-repairs. This is how the skin heals. So transit time creates a strong, healthy barrier via the contents of the cells that are being dumped overboard as they're migrating upwards. And it also creates a healing process if there's cuts or there are disturbances in the surface. That is really, really interesting because what it tells us is if we can induce disturbances at the surface, if we can mechanically induce disturbances, in essence, wound the skin intentionally, we can speed up the movement of cells from the bottom to the top and encourage more contents to be dumped overboard to encourage and to induce a healthy skin barrier. We can actually stimulate the movement of cells from the bottom to the top. We can actually increase the amount of contents that are being dumped overboard by cells as they're rising from the bottom to the top by intentionally wounding the skin. Now, intentionally wounding the skin might sound scary, but it really isn't because this healing process assures that the skin won't necessarily be wounded permanently or won't be wounded in a negative kind of way. Now, this does require that intentional wounding of the skin is not severe. You want to look for a mild intentionally wounding of the skin to assure the movement or to support the movement of cells from the bottom to the top and to support the contents being dumped overboard. We call this mild intentional wounding exfoliation. Exfoliation comes from the Latin word to remove, leaves, foliage. And that kind of reminds us of what happens when you trim your leaves back on a plant. When you trim your leaves back on a plant, you may say, oh my gosh, I don't want to trim my leaves back on my plant. I want my plant to have nice leaves. Well, what happens when you trim the leaves back on your plant? When you exfoliate, when you remove the leaves grow back thicker and healthier. Your plant gets bushier and more leaves. And we know that pruning leaves back on a plant is really something that you want to do to plants, even though it might be counterintuitive in the sense that you say, well, I want healthy plants. I want nice bushy leaves. Why would I cut them off? Well, you cut them off because nature has set up a system that when the plants are removed or when the leaves are removed from the plants, you get more leaves. The same thing happens when you exercise. When you exercise and you lift weights, for example, what's happening to your muscles as you're doing your curls? What's happening to your bicep muscles? They're being torn. Well, you say, I don't want to tear my bicep muscles. I want to have big, strong muscles. Why would I want to tear them up? Well, it turns out that when you tear the muscles get bigger and stronger. Now, of course, you don't want to tear them too severely. You want to tear them just slightly. You want to create just a slight disturbance in the muscles. When you create a slight disturbance in the muscles, when you break down the muscle tissue via exercise, what happens? Your muscles get bigger. Just like your plants get bushier when you prune your leaves back. Well, it should be if you understand that process, and if you understand that mechanism, it should come as no surprise that the same thing happens with your skin. When you remove leaves, i.e. cells, off of the skin surface, you initiate the movement, the growth of cells from the bottom to the top, giving you a stronger skin surface, and bonus, you get more of those factors that are being dumped out of the cells as the cell is moving upwards, being dumped overboard is how I like to think of it. And you're also changing the constituents inside the cell. So think about this. You're removing cells off of the surface. The cells from the bottom to the top are coming up to repair that disturbance, if you will, in the stratum corneum. As the cells are moving from the bottom to the top, they're dumping their contents overboard, and some of the contents inside the cell are changing. The cells will come to rest on the skin surface, repairing all of the disturbance or the damage that's been done by your intentional wounding or your intentional controlled wounding, i.e. exfoliation, to assure a stronger skin surface, skin barrier. And here's what gets really cool. Those contents that are being dumped overboard and the molecules inside the cell that are changing shape as that cell is journeying from the bottom to the top, those become moisture factors. Yes, this is how the skin stays moist. The skin stays moist by these moisture factors that are being dumped out as your skin cell, the keratinocyte, is journeying up from the bottom to the top, and by virtue of the molecules that are shape-shifting inside the cell as the cell is migrating from the surface to the stratum corneum. We call these moisture factors, we actually call them moisture factors. Technically speaking, the molecules inside the cell that are shape-shifting as the cell is rising from the bottom to top, those are called natural moisture factors. Literally, that's what they're called, the NMF, the natural moisture factors. And the stuff that's being dumped overboard as the cell is rising from the bottom to the top, those become skin lipids or skin fats. And the combination of the natural moisture factor, which is going to live in the skin cell that's on the surface of the skin, and the lipids that are being dumped overboard assures that the skin will stay soft and hydrated. So by virtue of your disturbances on the surface of the skin, you've done several things. By virtue of your exfoliation process. Number one, you've created a stronger barrier because you got more cells rising from the bottom to the top. And number two, you've got moisture factors and you've got lipids that assure that the skin will stay hydrated. This is why you want to exfoliate your skin, why you want to exercise your skin. I call it exercising your skin. I think of it like taking your skin to the gym because the same kind of growth-inducing effect that stress has on your muscles when you do your curls or you do your bench press or you run or you do whatever kind of exercise you're doing, that same kind of growth-inducing effect that is stimulated or activated by the stress response happens in the skin. So exfoliating your skin is like taking your skin to the gym. And just like you get bigger muscles when you do your curls, you get bigger, stronger, healthier skin when you exfoliate your skin. You get moisture skin. You get skin that is able to withstand the environment more effectively. You get skin that is able to trap moisture more effectively. These natural moisture factor molecules that live on the surface of the skin, in the skin cells that are the result of the shape-shifting that's occurring inside the cells as they're migrating upwards, they trap water. They trap water from the ambient humidity. So when you move to Colorado from, say, New York or Miami, where there's more ambient humidity, what's supposed to happen is you make more natural moisture factors. However, if you put something on the surface of the skin, you will block that process from happening, and this is why moisturizers are so problematic. Most of us have dry skin. We put a moisturizer on the surface of the skin. That moisturizer will impede the function of the natural moisture factor. This is why the more moisturizer you use, the drier your skin is, and this is why we sell millions, maybe billions of dollars in moisturizing products around the world. Despite that fact, everybody has dry skin because the moisturizers are suppressing or inhibiting the function of the natural moisture factors that live in the skin surface, in the cells on the skin surface. Not only that, but when you put stuff on the surface of the skin, you slow down the movement of cells from the bottom to the top. So moisturizers will slow down transit time. Anything that you put on the surface of the skin that blocks the function of cells as they're moving, or the process of cells as they're moving from the bottom to the top, will slow down, number one, the production of the natural moisture factor, and number two, the dumping overboard of the contents of the cell as they're rising to the top, slow down the production of these lipids, these skin lipids. You can see how when we start to understand the structure of the skin and how the skin, the biochemical processes of skin cells themselves, it gives us a completely different understanding of how to treat the skin. So just to conclude, you've got several things happening here. You've got skin cells rising from the bottom to the top. As they're rising from the bottom to the top, they're dumping their contents overboard and they're changing their the molecules inside those cells are changing shape. The molecules that are changing shape will come to rest at the top of the skin, inside the cell, at the top of the skin, and those will become the natural moisture factor, and the contents that are dumped overboard as the cells are rising from the bottom to the top, they will become skin lipids, and those skin lipids and the natural moisture factor assure that the skin stays hydrated and soft and functional. And the movement, this transit time movement of cells from the bottom to the top, will also assure a strong, healthy skin barrier. All right, on our next podcast, we're going to talk a little bit about how you can address skin issues that are related to defective barriers by encouraging the movement of cells from the bottom to the top, by using key ingredients topically, as well as by using internal nutritional supplements. I'm pharmacist Benjamin Knight Fuchs, cosmetic chemist, nutritionist, registered pharmacist. That's our inaugural podcast, Skin Matters. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.